सब्सक्राइब करें हमारा YouTube चैनल, बेल आइकन को क्लिक करना ना भूलें, जिससे आगे आने वाले सभी YouTube अपडेट्स, वीडियोस, नोटिफिकेशंस आपको मिलते रहें।
नमस्कार साथियों, परिष्कार परिवार में आपका हार्दिक स्वागत है। आज हम CBSE के अंतर्गत जिस विषय को ले रहे हैं वह है हिस्ट्री। इसके अंतर्गत हम देखेंगे किस प्रकार से जो है इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चंस को लिया जाता है। तो बढ़ते हैं हम। देखिए, इसमें मैक्सिमम मार्क्स जो है वो 80 के हैं और टाइम जो रहेगा 3 आवर्स का रहेगा। और हिस्ट्री जैसा सब्जेक्ट है, यानी कि हमें समय को ध्यान में रखना है, हमें इम्पोर्टेंट फैक्ट्स को ध्यान में रखना है, एंड वी हैव टू ट्राई टू एक्सप्लेन द इम्पोर्टेंट कॉन्सेप्ट्स आल्सो। नाउ कम टू द फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल जनरल इंस्ट्रक्शंस। देखिए, इसमें टोटल 34 क्वेश्चंस रहेंगे और ABCDE ये जो है अपने सेक्शंस रहेंगे, आप ये कह सकते हैं। और ये सारे सेक्शंस में से क्वेश्चंस को करना इट इज एसेंशियल फॉर अस, कंपल्सरी फॉर अस। सेक्शन ए में क्या रहेगा? सेक्शन ए में 1 to 21 MCQ क्वेश्चंस रहेंगे और हर MCQ क्वेश्चन जो है वो 1 मार्क्स का रहेगा। सेक्शन बी में 22 to 27 शॉर्ट आंसर्स रहेंगे, यहाँ हम कह सकते हैं शॉर्ट आंसर टाइप क्वेश्चंस रहेंगे, यानी कि बहुत हमें यहाँ पर टू द पॉइंट अपनी बात को रखना है और ये 3 मार्क्स के होंगे, ये भी हमें ध्यान में रखना है, ठीक है। और वर्ड लिमिट्स जो है वो 60 to 80 वर्ड्स रहेगी। सेक्शन सी जो है उसमें लॉन्ग क्वेश्चंस रहेंगे 28 to 30, मतलब 3 लॉन्ग क्वेश्चंस हमें वी हैव टू फेस। एंड इसमें जो है वर्ड लिमिट्स 300 to 350 वर्ड्स रहेगी और वर्ड लिमिट्स के बाद जो है मार्क्स जो रहेंगे वो रहेंगे 8 मार्क्स का एक क्वेश्चन रहेगा। सेक्शन डी, इसमें हमारे पास 31 to 33 यानी कि अगेन 3 क्वेश्चंस रहेंगे और अब ये जो क्वेश्चंस है वो सोर्स बेस्ड होंगे। सोर्स बेस्ड का क्या मतलब है कि हमारे पास कोई एक ऐसा पैराग्राफ होगा जिसमें जो है समरी ऑफ द टॉपिक दी होगी और वहाँ से हमें जो है क्वेश्चंस के आंसर को फाइंड आउट करना है। जैसे हम हिंदी में गद्यांश को करते हैं या कॉम्प्रीहेंशन जब अपना इंग्लिश में आता है, इंग्लिश के पेपर में, ठीक इसी तरीके से जो है हिस्ट्री के पेपर में भी सोर्स बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस रहेंगे। नेक्स्ट है सेक्शन ई, ये मैप बेस्ड क्वेश्चन होगा और इसमें जो हमसे प्लेस को पूछा जाएगा वो 5 मार्क्स के रहेंगे। चलते हम अपने क्वेश्चंस की तरफ। देखिए, इससे पहले एक और इंफॉर्मेशन रहेगी कि ओवरऑल जो है यहाँ पर नो चॉइस रहेगी। हालांकि एग्जाम में कभी कभी क्वेश्चंस के साथ कुछ चॉइस दे दी जाती है, लेकिन ये 34 क्वेश्चंस तो हमें करने कंपल्सरी रहेंगे। नेक्स्ट, इन एडिशन टू दिस सेपरेट इंस्ट्रक्शंस आर गिवन विथ ईच सेक्शन एंड क्वेश्चन वेर एवर नेसेसरी। नाउ कम टू द सेक्शन ए, मल्टीपल चॉइस बेस्ड क्वेश्चन। सी, दिस इज द क्वेश्चन, who among the following was the first director general of the, first बताना है, of the archaeological survey of India, जिसे ASI भी कहा जाता है। and these are the 4 options। हमें इस क्वेश्चन में राइट आंसर को ही क्लिक करना है, तो हमें ज़्यादा जो है सोच विचार की जरूरत इस सेंस से नहीं है कि हमें लिखना क्या है। If we note the particular fact that the father of Indian archaeology is known as Alexander Cunningham, that is the right answer also. So we can directly tick to this answer. And in 1875, he came to India and became the Director General of this ASI. You know, the main objective of Indian archaeology was to find out the inscriptions, pillars, monuments, and to reconstruct the history. We can say that was the very important to know the various aspect from Indian point of view. तो यहाँ पे अलेक्जेंडर कनिंगम जो है वो राइट आंसर है। सेकंड, which one among the following religious practice was seemed to be unfamiliar and unusual with the Harappan culture? See, this question is from our Indus Valley civilization and आपको religious practice के बारे में बताना है that was to be unfamiliar, जो बिल्कुल भी जो है उस समय नहीं थी। and see that the mother goddess, priest king, yogic posture seal, and 4th one is the Sanskritic yajnas. You know that all the 3 A, B, C, they are the right answer, because the many sculptures, seals, they are found on that particular mother goddess, priest, king and the yogi. From Mohenjo-daro we can see the example of the seal. But the right answer of this question is that the Sanskritic yajnas, it means the sacrifice yajnas, performance of the yajnas, we can say that they were not the part of the religious practice of Indus Valley civilization. Come to the question third, which of the following is the oldest stupa in India and was commissioned by the Mauryan king Ashoka? So you know that the stupa, they are the architecture part of Buddhism, and we can see that the particular stupa was constructed to keep the ashes of Mahatma Buddha, and we know that Ashoka was also the follower of Mahatma Buddha or Buddhist theory. So you can see that various stupas name are here: Bharut stupa, Amravati stupa, that Sanchi stupa and Nagarjun Konda stupa. But we have to give the particular name that was constructed during the Mauryan period. So the right one is that the Sanchi stupa. See that this is the question, but what you have to do, that the above three options you have to make the question, like Bharut stupa, that belong to Shunga period. So maybe that the next question is coming, that give the name of that period in which Bharut stupa was constructed. So you can easily give the name of that Shunga period. Amravati stupa belong to the Satvahana period. Nagarjun Konda stupa, that was also the ancient stupa, but that don't belong to that Mauryan period and particular the Ashoka period. So Sanchi stupa is the right answer one. And one more question is associated with Sanchi stupa, that give the name of that stupa who was renovated, means reconstructed, who was damaged previously but again reconstructed during the Shunga period. So the right answer is Sanchi stupa. So in both way you can see that the Sanchi stupa is the right answer. Next question is coming, which of the following aspects describe the meaning of Tirthankars in Jainism? See that again 4 options are available. Tirthankars, we can say that they are the tradition of the priest in Jainism. Just as we can see in Hinduism the Brahmins, similarly we can see in Jainism that the Tirthankars. So they are the Jain Munis. Okay, so what the thing is coming, that we have to give the literal meaning of Tirthankars, and the right answer is that those who guide men and women across the river of existence. It means जो हमें जीवन के इस नैया को पार लगाते हैं, they are known as the Tirthankars. And you know that Mahavir Swami is also known as Tirthankar. Before Mahavir Swami, the first Tirthankar is Rishabdev. So this is also the question that we can face in our exam. 23rd Tirthankar is Parshavnath. So there you can see that the various questions are related with the Tirthankars. Now come to that the 5th question. Who among the following was the composer of Prayag Prashasti? Prayag Prashasti, we know that is related with the Gupta period, and the right answer is Harishen. Harishen, that was the court poet of Samundragupta, and in the praise of Samundragupta, who is known as the Napoleon of India, he composed the Prayag Prashasti. So Prashasti, that is written in the praise of the king. Kalidas was also the court poet belonged to Gupta period, especially that the Chandragupta Vikramaditya. Okay, Kalan wrote Ras Tarangani during the 10th to 11th century, and Ban Bhatta, court poet of Harshvardhan. The composition of the Mahabharata has been traditionally attributed to a rishi. Identify this name from the following options. See that Mahabharata के ऊपर ये जो क्वेश्चन आ रहा है, महाभारत, in which we can see that the battle between the Kauravas and Pandavas, and we have to give the rishi name who has composed Mahabharata. So the right answer is that the Rishi Vyasa. Rishi Ved Vyas. Okay, here is the right answer. Next question is coming that the who among the following travelled in Vijayanagar Empire in the 15th century and was greatly impressed by the fortification of the empire. See, Vijayanagar Empire, modern Hampi, okay, where we can see that the Vijayanagar Empire was situated in South India. So you can see that the different options are again, and the right answer is Abdul Razak. Abdul Razak, who visited Vijayanagar Empire and he tried to find out the various aspects related with Vijayanagar Empire, and he was greatly impressed by the fortification of that empire, because at that time Vijayanagar was विजयनगर का जो एनिमी था वो बहमनी था, एंड टू फेस द अगेन एंड अगेन अटैक्स ऑफ बहमनी, it was essential for the Vijayanagar rulers to prevent that empire. So we can see the fortification of the empire. Next है, identify the ruler of the Satvahana dynasty with the help of the following information. यहाँ पर आपको क्या करना है, रूलर का नेम बताना है जो सातवाहन डायनेस्टी का था. फर्स्ट है हमारे पास इंफॉर्मेशन, he claimed to be both a unique Brahman and a destroyer of the pride of Kshatriyas. Second point है, he also claimed to have ensured that there was no intermarriage amongst members of the four Varnas. And the right answer is, you can see first of all the option that the Gautami Putra Shri Vijay Satkarni, Gautami Putra Shri Satkarni, Gautami Putra Sami Shri Yana Satkarni and Vashishta Putra Shri Pulamavi. Among these four options we can go to that the Gautami Putra Shri Satkarni. Gautami Putra Satkarni is the right one answer. Why? Because he first of all defeated those enemies, those who were surrounding his empire, in which we can see that the Shaka ruler, okay, Ruddamana, and Ruddamana was defeated by him, and we can see that what he did, he tried to also give the support to the Brahmins, because he was himself a Brahman ruler. And after that the Kandav dynasty, Satvahana dynasty was set up in the area of South India, and Simukh was the founder of that dynasty. Next, match the following and select the correct option. That the list 1 and list 2, and list 1 is connected with the Harappan sites. These are the famous Harappan sites, and second one is the famous. Why these areas are famous? So Lothal, Kalibanga, Dholavira, Nageshwar, okay, and these are the options 1. You have to see that first of all what we have to do, that you have to take the simplest one, the answer, like Kalibanga. Kalibanga, that is situated in Rajasthan, and we can see that it is famous for the evidence of the plowing field during the Harappan period. So सेकंड का जो आंसर सही आ रहा है वो सी सही आ रहा है. अब यहाँ पे आप ऑप्शन में देख सकते हैं कि किसका सेकंड सी सही आ रहा है, और यहाँ पर हम देख रहे हैं कि जो ए ऑप्शन है वो यहाँ पे सेकंड सी है. अच्छा, धोलावीरा, इफ यू नो अबाउट द टू ऑप्शंस, on the basis of the two option you can also identify the whole answer. Dholavira is also famous for the water reservoirs. वाटर की जो रिसोर्सेज हैं, वाटर जो रिजर्व है वो फाउंड किया गया, वाटर टैंक है वहाँ पर. सो धोलावीरा इज फेमस फॉर द ऑप्शन डी, एंड यू कैन सी दैट द 3 का यहाँ पर डी जो है हमें एक आंसर मिल रहा है. इस दिस वे वी कैन सी दैट द अवर ऑप्शन ए इज करेक्ट. Lothal, why Lothal is famous? Here we can see that here the near sources of carnelian. Carnelian means the precious stones, they are found from this site, while from Nageshwar the center for making shell objects. Now come to the 9th question, that given below are two statements, one labeled as assertion and reason. B is the reason. So ये assertion based जो है questions भी we can also face in our exam. A क्या कह रहा है, archaeologists and historians find Harappan script enigmatic, बहुत difficult है. इसका reason है the Harappan script remains undeciphered till date. आज तक जो है उसको समझा नहीं जा सका है. Harappan script you know that it is known as the pictographic, जिस पर जो है भाव होते, इमोशंस होते थे, मतलब इस तरीके के वहाँ पर हम जो है डिजाइन्स को देख सकते हैं. अब जब इस तरीके के सिंबल्स आते हैं, डिजाइन्स आते हैं, सो वी कैन नॉट गिव द एग्जैक्ट मीनिंग ऑफ दिस स्क्रिप्ट. सो वी कैन सी दैट दिस इज वेरी हार्ड एंड टिल डेट it is very impossible for the historians to read out this script. So we can say that the A and both are the correct and R is the correct explanation of that A assertion या A statement. मैंने जैसे अभी आपको बताई, because of this emotion, because of these symbols, the we can see the exact difficulty faced by the historians and the archaeologists also. Now come to the next question. Complete the following with the correct option. किताबुल हिंद अल बरूनी. देखिए इसमें क्या किया गया है. किताबुल हिंद is the book, okay, wrote by Al Baruni during the medieval period. Rahla is also the book. Kitabul Rahla is the book name and it is written by whom? The question is asking this. So Rahla, Kitabul Rahla. So इस किताब के राइटर जो हैं इब्न बतूता, who came from Morocco during the period of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and Kitabul Rahla is the best specimen written by that Ibn Battuta during the period of Muhammad bin Tughlaq and explain his conquest and the cultural aspect of that period also. Come to the next question. Which among the following is correctly matched? लिस्ट फर्स्ट, लिस्ट सेकंड. एक तरफ जो है सेंटर है, दूसरी तरफ लीडर है, दिल्ली, कानपुर, आरा, लखनऊ, और दूसरी तरफ हम देखते हैं 1857 के जो हमारे पास मेन सेंटर्स थे और वहाँ पर जो हमारे पास लीडर्स हुए जिन्होंने 1857 के रिवोल्ट को लेड किया था, उनके नाम दिए गए. अब हमें देखना है कि कौन सा जो है इसमें से सही है. लखनऊ में हम देखते हैं बिरजिस कादिर. दिल्ली में नाना साहब नहीं थे. नाना साहब हम देखते हैं कि कानपुर में थे. कानपुर में जो है वो जो थे कानपुर में जो थे नाना साहब थे, और कुंवर सिंह जो थे वो एक्चुअली बिहार आरा का जो एरिया है वहाँ पे थे, जैसे आप देख सकते हैं. अब यहाँ पर देखिए सारा कुछ जो है ये मिसमैच दिया हुआ है, ठीक है. मतलब बहादुर शाह जो है आरा में दिए गए, जबकि ऐसा नहीं है. लखनऊ में जो थे वो बिरजिस कादिर थे और उनके ही अंडर में हम देखते हैं 1857 का जो है था रिवोल्ट हुआ था. दीज आर द नेम ऑफ द मेन लीडर्स ऑफ द 1857 रिवोल्ट्स. नाउ कम टू दैट. गिवन बिलो आर टू स्टेटमेंट्स, वन लेबल्ड एज assertion एंड अदर लेबल्ड एज रीजन. देखिए वापस से एक assertion बेस्ड जो क्वेश्चन वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस, और यहाँ पे assertion एज जो है वो क्या कह रहा है अबाउट द संथाल्स रिवोल्ट. Santhal revolts, that the Santhals were given land and persuaded to settle in the rocky upper part of Rajmahal Hills. Rajmahal Hills, the area of Jharkhand, okay. And you can say this statement is coming from a book 5 of 18, okay. And the reason that the British perceived Paharias and Santhals as idle leaders. You can see. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल संथाल जो रिवोल्ट होता है, दिस वॉज अगेंस्ट द ब्रिटिश रेवेन्यू पॉलिसी एंड परमानेंट सेटलमेंट इन विच वी कैन सी दैट द जमींदार्स दे बिकेम द लैंडलॉर्ड्स एंड दे कुड इम्पोज द हैवी टैक्सेशन ऑन द फार्मर्स. द फार्मर्स वर एक्सप्लॉइटेड बाय द जमींदार्स. सो इन द एरिया ऑफ राजमहल हिल्स, संथाल्स, they were the tribe and they led the revolt against this heavy revenue policy of the British and landlords. Sidhu and Kanu, they were the main two leaders, and you can see that what is the right answer. A is the correct but B is not correct because Pahadis, they were not included in this, okay, and they Sidhu and Kanu, they were the leaders. This is the option, right one is the right, but Pahadis, they were not included. And you can see that this revolt, this Santhal revolt was against the British exploiting policy of the Santhals tribe. Next, come to the next question. Consider the following statements and select the correct from the following option. That Francis Bernier was closely associated with the Prince Dara Shikoh. Bernier travelled to several parts of the country and wrote accounts. he dedicated his major writing to the King of France and Aurangzeb? See that options second, third, first and second, second and third, first and third. First of all, we take the option 1, that first and second. Francis Bernier was closely associated with the Prince Dara Shikoh. Prince Dara Shikoh, who was the eldest son of Shahjahan, and it is very true that Bernier, who was a French traveller, travelled during the Mughal period, and he saw the war of succession of Shahjahan's son among the 4 sons, all of you know, Dara Shikoh, Murad, Shah Shuja and Aurangzeb. Actually, Shahjahan wanted to see Dara Shikoh as the ruler, but Aurangzeb was very ambitious. So what he did, he jumped into the war of succession against Dara Shikoh. Second, Bernier travelled to several parts of the country and wrote accounts. Yes, he wrote accounts, travelled to the Mughal Empire is the account of Bernier. Okay, and this account was written on the basis of the information that Bernier collected to visit the various parts of the country. He dedicated his major writing to the King of France. No, this is not the option right one, and Aurangzeb, you know that. So our option that the first and second both are sahi. So in this way, C is our right answer. Section A में वापस से हम 14th क्वेश्चन की ओर जा रहे हैं. Who among the following introduced permanent settlement in Bengal? Yes, permanent settlement 1793. Okay, and you know that the important features by this permanent settlement, the zamindars or the landlords, they became the owner of the land. Now they could impose the taxation on the farmers, and the amount was decided by the British. In this way, the landlords directly imposed the heavy taxation policy on the farmers. In this way, we can also see the exploitation of the peasants and farmers. So this permanent settlement was introduced by Lord Cornwallis. Lord Cornwallis, who introduced this settlement especially in Bengal, Bihar. Okay, and this settlement was responsible and became the exact cause of many rebellions during that period. Come to the next question. Which of the following option is correct? Now, Gandhiji started Quit India Mission in 1930. Gandhiji gave his first speech in Champaran. Gandhiji worked as radical nationalist leader. Gandhi considered J.K. Gokhale as his political mentor. See, these are the option, and you have to find out the one answer, right one. That is the right one answer. See that the Gopal Krishna Gokhale was the political leader of Gandhiji. He was very inspired by Gopal Krishna Gokhale. While we can see that Gandhiji started Quit India, this is a mission in 1930. In 1930, we can see that the our civil disobedience movement started. Gandhiji gave his first speech in Champaran. This is not the right one answer. Okay, Gandhiji worked as radical nationalist leader. No, this is not also true one. Now come to the next question. Who among the following was the president of Constituent Assembly? Constituent Assembly के लिए पूछा जा रहा है. जवाहरलाल नेहरू, B.R. Ambedkar, Dr. Rajendra Prasad and Vallabh Bhai Patel. See that the Constituent Assembly to frame out our constitution was elected, and the right answer is that the Dr. Rajendra Prasad. After getting the freedom in 1947, the one Constituent Assembly was elected under the presidentship of Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Next question आ रहा है. Which one of the following languages was favored by गांधी जी as the national language? देखिए एक प्रश्न कह रहा है कि किस लैंग्वेज को गांधी जी जो है नेशनल लैंग्वेज के रूप में जो है फेवर कर रहे थे. एंड द ऑप्शंस आर एज फॉलोज: हिंदी, उर्दू, हिंदुस्तानी, इंग्लिश. एंड अमंग दिस ऑप्शन द राइट वन इज हिंदुस्तानी. स्टूडेंट्स यहाँ पे देखिए हिंदुस्तानी जो लैंग्वेज आ रही है वो गांधी जी के लिए जो थी वो रीजनल लैंग्वेजेस से है, यानी कि जितनी भी भारत के प्रांतीय भाषाएं बोली जा रही थी उनको वो एक टेक्निकल टर्म दे रहे हैं हिंदुस्तानी लैंग्वेज, और यहाँ पर हिंदी, उर्दू, इंग्लिश का जो है वो सपोर्ट नहीं कर रहे. चलते हैं अब अपन अपने नेक्स्ट प्रश्न की तरफ. हु अमंग द फॉलोइंग वाज द ऑथर ऑफ द बुक अर्थशास्त्र? Option is Bimsar, Ajashatru, Chanakya, and that the Bindusar. And the right answer is that the Chanakya, who is also known as the Kautilya, and you know that the Arthashastra is written by Chanakya during the Mauryan period, especially focused on the administration and political aspect of the Mauryas. Next is coming that the which one of the following teaching is not associated with the teachings of Mahavira or Jain philosophy. A is the entire world is animated, Ahimsa, the cycle of the birth and rebirth is not related to karma, monastic existence is necessary condition of salvation. See that one is the not related while the 3 is related with the teachings, not associated. We have to tick mark on the not associated. So the right answer is that the cycle of birth and rebirth. महावीर स्वामी ने कभी भी साइकिल के लिए नहीं बोला, मतलब मनुष्य जन्म लेता है और उसकी मृत्यु होती है, वो कभी भी नहीं कह रहे. While he has said about the ahimsa, he has also favored that the satya, truthfulness, okay, and monastic existence is necessary condition of salvation. It means brahmacharya is very essential if we want to get the salvation. But the cycle of birth and rebirth is not favored by him. Next is coming, read the following statements regarding Sufism in India. Sufism during the medieval period, yes, Khwaja Muinuddin Chishti, name is coming for us. They turned to asceticism and mysticism in protest against the growing materialism. They sought an interpretation of Quran on the basis of their experience. Amir Khusro was the disciple of Sheikh Nizamuddin Aulia. Sheikh Muinuddin Siji was from Delhi. We can see that which option is wrong one. Here, first, second and third, they are the correct. Why? Because we can see that when Sufism came into the light, materialistic view was existed in the society, and this Sufism chose the middle path. They criticized that the materialistic life. They said God is one, and with the help of love and music we can get it. They sought an interpretation of Quran on the basis of their experiences. They represented the teachings of Quran in the very simplest way, so that the people of India, they could attract or they could absorb the teachings of that Quran. Amir Khusro, yes, bilkul sahi hai, he was the famous disciple of Sheikh Nizamuddin Aulia. But we can see that the fourth statement is not right one. Next is coming that which one of the following statement is the correct explanation of endogamy. Endogamy is related with the society and is coming in the social aspect. Marriage outside a kin group, marriage within a kin group, a woman having several husbands, a man having several wives. So the right answer is marriage within a kin group is the right one answer. If we see the social structure of the society, we can see that the endogamy was existed in the society of that period. Now come to the section B. In this way we have solved all the question. Okay, describe any 3 features of Harappan drainage system. This question is from Indus Valley civilization, and see that the Harappan, when we say that the Indus Valley civilization or Harappan civilization or bronze civilization, you can also take, okay, this is also the first urbanization in India. When we talk about the second urbanization, that was the Mahajanpada. So we can see that the city planning was very beautifully presented with the help of that seals and that all the sculptures we can feel, and also the Kalibanga, from Kalibanga we have found the plowing field. They all represent that the very well planned city existed during the Harappan period. So Harappan drainage का जो main purpose था to neat and clean the city, and for this point of view we can see that the drainage system in every houses, not in every houses, but on the road, at the corner of the road, special pit stocks were also constructed to draw out that the filth of the road. these drainage system, the drain system was mostly covered or mostly made with the limestone. Mud brick was also used, we can see. Okay, see that this is the some features are coming. Harappan cities had a carefully planned drainage system. Yeah, this is a very important thing, because why we can see this thing and why we are taking this statement. If you see the Harappan settlements, you will say that that the roads and streets, that the second point is also coming, led out along on the appropriate grid system. In the grid system, you can see that the streets, they were cutting to each other at the right angles, and at the corner of this streets, one pig sort was there, pig sort to take out that the filth and to clean the city. Streets with drains were laid out first, and then houses were built along them. This drainage system also the part of that the houses I have told also earlier. Drainages were made with burnt bricks, that those bricks who were first of all fired at the sunlight and later on used, so that they could give the strength to the building. The next is the drains were made of mortar, lime and gypsum. These were the materials out of which that the drain system was prepared or constructed. They were covered with big bricks and stones which could be lifted easily to clean the drains. Mostly these drainage system, they were covered by the stone and big bricks, so that the people they could easily lift them and clean the drains. Limestones were also used as the cesspits. These were also the main part of the drainage system. See, in this way we can see the drainage system of the Harappan period. Now come to the Magda was the most powerful Mahajanpada. Examine the statement. This question is about the Magda Mahajanpada. You know that the 16 Mahajanpada existed during the ancient period, and one of the important Mahajanpadas was Magda. Magda Mahajanpada, yes, very good. That from Magda we can see that the Haryang dynasty is coming, okay, that also belong to the Magda. Mauryan dynasty also belong to that Magda. So now we have to trace out that which features they build up Magda as the powerful Mahajanpada, because when we see Magda was the Mahajanpada, that other Mahajanpada, Ang, Vaishali, Panchal, that the Shursen, here we can also see that the Matsya, these were the other Mahajanpadas that were existed, Kuru, okay, these were the Avanti, these were the very most examples that are coming in my mind. So I am going to write this. So these Mahajanpadas also existed during the 600 BC, and among that, why Magda became so much powerful Mahajanpada? Here you can see that it was powerful because the land was very fertile. You know that if the land is very fertile, this boosts up the economy. If the economy is very good, so we can see that the trade is very good. So one to one we can see that the points they are connected with each other. See, Magda was a region where agriculture was productive because land was very fertile. So agriculture was also productive. Mainly the productive crops, they were grown to that area. And why that agriculture? Why so much fertile land? Because we can see that the Ganga river and its tributaries, they were continuously providing the water or irrigation facilities to the land of Magda. Now, iron mines, iron and coal mines, they also existed in that place. What happened then? If any economic resource is there, so the population must exist in that area. This was also the case of Magda, and that iron was also helped to make that armaments like weapons, okay, sword, which was also used to in the chariots. So iron mines, they also existed in that area. Next, elephants for riding purpose, for the war purpose, they were also in this region, and it was very easy for Magdan rulers to defeat the enemy or that their army. So elephants, they also found in that area. Ambitious king like Bimsara, we can take the example, Jashatru, later on Padmananda, and their ministers Jivak, they also helped to take out the policy to frame Magda in such a way that these rulers adopted the imperialistic policy and they extended their empire. Come to the next question. This is the 24th question. The power of the Jotdars was more effective than that of the Jamindars. Justify the statement with suitable arguments. See that this is question from the medieval period. Jotdar, they were the independent peasants of the medieval period. ये क्वेश्चन कह रहे हैं their position was more effective than that of the जमींदार्स, लैंडलॉर्ड्स. क्यों था आखिर ऐसा? इसलिए था because the various arguments are coming in the favor of this statement. See, जोतदार्स they were located in the village. वो कहाँ पे रहते थे? विलेज में रहते थे, उस पर्टिकुलर एरिया में रहते थे जहाँ पे एग्रीकल्चर हो रहा है. जबकि जमींदार क्या कर रहे थे? वहां से फार अवे थे. देखिए ये एरिया ऑफ लैंड है, इस जमीन को प्लो कौन करेगा? इस जमीन के इस लैंड की जो है हम कह रहे हैं इरिगेशन के लिए या फार्मिंग का यूज कौन करेगा? डेट द जोतदार. जोतदार का मतलब जो किसी लैंड को क्या करता है? एग्रीकल्चर के लिए यूज करता है. लैंड किसकी है? ये तो है लैंड लॉर्ड की. काम कौन कर रहा है? डेट द जोतदार्स. अब ये क्या कर रहे हैं? जोतदार्स उस एग्रीकल्चर एरिया में रह रहे हैं, उस पर्टिकुलर रीजन में रह रहे हैं और प्रोडक्शन एक्टिविटी कर रहे हैं. जबकि जमींदार्स क्या है? उस एरिया से फॉर अवे. सेकेंड पॉइंट इज कमिंग दैट जोतदार्स एक्सरसाइज डायरेक्ट कंट्रोल ओवर ए कंसिडरेबल सेक्शन ऑफ पुअर विलेजर्स. जोतदार्स क्या कर रहे थे? उनका डायरेक्ट कंट्रोल था. एक जोतदार का दूसरे साथी के साथ, तीसरे के साथ, तो उनका एक जो था एक कंट्रोल रहता था पूरे इस मैकेनिज्म पे. और हम देखते हैं दे कुड डायरेक्टली कंट्रोल द स्पेसिफिक section of poor village who were working along with the jotdar for the production activity of the region. Third, they fiercely resisted effort by jamindars to increase the jama of the village. Jama means revenue. जब वो एकजुट होकर काम कर रहे थे, they started to criticize the heavy land revenue policy of the jamindars, because jamindars they wanted to earn more profits, so that they tried to impose more and more revenue to the peasants and farmers or the jotdars. They prevented jamindari officials from executing their duties. Now when they started to criticize, they also started to do the practice of jamindars, because jamindars they by how and crook they had to collect the revenue, so they were prevented by the jotdars not to do so. They mobilized rears who were dependent on them. See that two terms are coming. Rears क्या होता है? Rears, those who were not having the means of production but they had to hire. They were dependent on the for the agriculture tools on the others. So they were the rears. These jotdars, these farmers, they mobilized the rears, and these rears were totally dependent on them. In this way we can see all the features they are responsible for the rise and to give the power, to give the strength to that the jotdars. They deliberately delayed payments of revenue to the jamindars. Why? Because जमींदार उनको किससे मतलब है? रेवेन्यू से मतलब, उनको पेमेंट से मतलब है. अब पेमेंट देगा कौन? देगा तो वही जोतदार देगा ना भाई. और इसके लिए हम देखते हैं दे डायरेक्टली, और उन्होंने क्या करना शुरू कर दिया जोतदार ने? दे डेलिबरेटली डिलेड दिस पेमेंट बिकॉज they were very powerful in that area. All the rears they also joined and they started to work in one organization. Jotdars were often amongst the purchasers in the auction of land. जब भी कभी किसी लैंड को ऑक्शन में बेचा जाता था तो जोतदार्स क्या करते थे? उस लैंड को परचेज करने का भी काम करते थे. Now come to the art and literature help in keeping alive the memory of 1857. Explain with examples from Indian perspective. See that what you have to do. आपको यहाँ पे क्या नहीं करना है? You have not to explain the causes of that 1857 revolt. But आपको causes की जगह पे role of art and literature help in keeping alive the memory of 1857. कैसे वो आज भी हमारे को 1857 की जो यादें वो जिंदा करने में आर्ट और लिटरेचर जो है इंपॉर्टेंट रोल को निभाता है, इस क्वेश्चन पे डिस्कस करना है. जैसे सुभद्रा कुमारी चौहान की पोएम आती है दैट खूब लड़ी मर्दानी वो तो झांसी वाली रानी थी. सो सच लाइक लिटरेचर वी कैन रिवाइव द आवर 1857 revolt and the incident that occurred during this period. Now come to this. The leaders of the revolt were presented as heroic figures leading the country into the battle. You know that 1857 revolt, that is also known the first freedom struggle of India, and it is narrated by V.D. Savarkar. V.D. Savarkar ने जो है 1857 के रिवोल्ट को जो है भारत का फर्स्ट इंडिपेंडेंस भी कहा है. और यहाँ पर हम देख सकते हैं ये वो 1857 रिवोल्ट था जहाँ पर all the Indians they came forward and they tried to organize themselves against the British power. So जो heroic figures थे like नाना साहब थे, like त्याटर टोपे, रानी लक्ष्मीबाई, and that the Begum Hazrat Mahal, all these heroic leaders they are figured, they are narrated in the poems in such a way that they are representing themselves as the heroic figure. जैसे कोई एक हीरो अपनी बैटल को लड़ता है, ठीक इसी तरीके से हम इनको देख सकते हैं. It had been rousing the people to righteous indignation against oppressive imperial rule. Whenever we go through that literature, we can also understand the feelings and emotion of that time and what we have to do right whenever there is any revolt. Third point, heroic poems were written about the valor of Lakshmibai. मैंने अभी आपसे थोड़े पहले चर्चा की थी झांसी की रानी लक्ष्मीबाई, who also led the 1857 revolt from Jhansi, because you know that Lord Dalhousie he implemented the doctrine of lapse policy against Jhansi, doctrine of lapse in which the Hindu ruler or especially the Indian rulers they could not hire the adopted son. क्या हो रहा था, हिंदू लॉ के अनुसार यदि किसी रूलर के कोई सन नहीं होता था, देन द रूलर दे हैड द राइट अकॉर्डिंग टू द हिंदू लॉ दे कुड अडॉप्ट द मेल चाइल्ड. बट लॉर्ड डलहौजी who was the governor general of that period and he introduced the doctrine of lapse policy, and under this policy the Indian rulers they had no right to adopt the male child. And among this policy we can see that Lord Dalhousie tried to cover many areas, Nagpur and that Jhansi, Satara, Sambalpur, and amongst them Lakshmibai also became the main victim. And these heroic poems they describe the that the bravery of Rani Lakshmibai. Rani fought for the freedom of her motherland, all of you know this, okay. Sir Hughes he also said that रानी लक्ष्मीबाई इस तरीके से लड़ी जैसे लग रहा था कि 1857 रिवोल्ट में केवल वही क्या है, एक मेल लीडर है. रानी of Jhansi was represented as a masculine figure chasing the enemy, slaying British soldiers and valiantly fighting till her last. जब तक उसकी लाइफ रही, she tried to face the British and at last she died at the battleground. In popular prints, Rani Lakshmibai is usually portrayed in battle armor with a sword in hand and riding a horse, a symbol of the determination to resist injustice and align rule. You can see that whenever any poetry is coming or any picture is coming, Rani Lakshmibai is presented or depicted in such a way that one sword is in her hand and she is always on the horse against the British rule or British exploiting policy. This poem, whenever we hear, we always think about the valor and bravery, courage of that period that was showed by Rani Lakshmibai in the battle of 1857 revolt. Next question is coming, discuss the impact of Quit India movement. Quit India movement that was led by, we not have to say that Mahatma Gandhi he started, but led by the people of that period, okay, because indigenous people they and leaders mainly they participated in this movement. Quit India movement of 1942, yes वही movement है जिसमें गांधी जी ने स्लोगन दिया था do or die. This is also known as the August Revolution. 8 August 1942 is the date when Quit India movement was started by Mahatma Gandhi ji, okay, and later on he was arrested. And what happened, the indigenous people and the leaders like Jayaprakash Narayan, Usha Mehta, Aruna Asaf Ali and many more leaders, they participated in this movement and they tried to bring India at the door of freedom. Now, what was the impact? Because we can see Mahatma Gandhi ji was arrested and later on activists organized strikes and protest. They organized the strike and protest. Why? Because all the people, they were against the British policy, British exploiting policy, British racial discrimination policy, and these activists, they organized themselves in the form of the strikers. Next is the students left their college to go to jail. Now the students, like we have seen also during the non-cooperation movement, also the students, they boycotted the British education system. But now this time the students, they have left their colleges and they participated directly in the movement to go to jail. Third is the socialists resisted for the cause. See that here, the people, they wanted to get the freedom because Gandhiji also said do or die. So the people, they had nothing else. They directly participated, and whenever they saw that there is no one leader who could organize, they themselves became the leader of that area. Many parallel governments, they were also set up in the parts of Bengal area. We can also see that they are known as the parallel government, and these parallel governments, they demanded the equal rights for Indians. Women across the country, they also parted. I have given you the name of the Aruna Asaf Ali, Usha Mehta. These were the prominent women leaders who directly participated. And thousands of Indians joined the mass movement. This was the first mass movement. It means thousands of people, they joined together. Next, strikes, boycott and picketing, they were there. Gandhiji, because he was sent to the jail, okay, and attacks on government building or any other visible symbol of colonial authority. So these, we can see that the impact of the Quit India movement, that in this way, if we are going to take all these points, we can say that the people, they became more conscious about their freedom or right. Now they thought if there would be no leader, they would become independent or they would guide themselves, and they jumped into the movement to get the freedom. Now come to the next, that discuss the Sulh-e-Kul policy of Akbar. Now this question is about the Sulh-e-Kul policy of Akbar. This policy was adopted by Akbar. You know that the Mughal ruler Akbar, Mughal rule was, or Mughal empire was founded by Babur, but strength was given, और जिसे हमें कहना चाहिए कि मजबूती जो है वो अकबर के द्वारा दी गई, and he adopted the policy of Sulh-e-Kul and also that the Deen-e-Ilahi religion. Okay, so Sulh-e-Kul policy or Deen-e-Ilahi, both are important, and both are the important tools with which Akbar could extend his empire. In the political field, Sulh-e-Kul policy is there, while in the religious field, that the Deen-e-Ilahi policy is there. So now come to the Sulh-e-Kul policy. Sulh-e-Kul policy का मतलब है what Akbar did and why he did. First of all, what he did, he tried to harmonize among all the communities, because he knew that in which society he was living, there were the Hindus, Muslims, Mongols, Afghans, okay, and other communities were there. So how could he bring all the communities one under umbrella? To bring all the communities under one umbrella, he chose Sulh-e-Kul policy. And why he did? Because he wanted to extend his empire. All of you know that Akbar, when he got the throne, he had to fight the second battle of Panipat. Second battle of Panipat in 1556, okay, and after that he became the ruler. He knew this fact very well, that with the help of the Rajputs and other communities, he could not extend his empire. So to get the support of all this community, he adopted the Sulh-e-Kul policy. Now what he did, I told you that all the communities of different religions and different caste traditions, they came under one umbrella and the name is given to Sulh-e-Kul. Now he ensured that justice and peace. He gave the freedom to the people to follow their customs, to follow their rights. All of you know that this Sulh-e-Kul policy was also adopted by the Rajputs. So whenever the Rajputs they set up the matrimonial alliance with Akbar, so Akbar gave the cultural freedom to them. For example, that when Bharmal, what he did, he you know that he gave the hand of his daughter Hadakka Bai to Akbar, and when Hadakka Bai came into the court, she was free to worship their Hindu gods and goddesses and deities. So the people, they got the justice and peace whenever they came and adopted Sulh-e-Kul policy. No nobility was comprised of Irans, Turains, Afghans, Rajput, Deccanis, etc., who were given position and awards based on merit and service. For you know that for keeping this view that all the communities, if they are coming one under umbrella, so Akbar initiated Mansabdari system. So Mansabdari system was the post and the rank that was given by Akbar to those who accepted the Mughal sovereignty and came under one umbrella and accepted Sulh-e-Kul policy of Akbar. Akbar abolished the tax on pilgrimage or jizya. What he did, he took the very steps also. For this jizya tax, that was a religious tax and it was taken from the Hindus. So he abolished this jizya tax in 1564, and pilgrimage tax, that the it was abolished by Akbar just to feel the people that all the people are equal one, and now they had not to pay any religious tax. Now he gave grants to support and maintain religious buildings. Yeah, because many religious we can see that like Christian missionaries, they came also during the Akbar period, Aquabina, Mansirat. Similarly, that the Jainis, they also came into the contact. Persian Meher Dasturji Rana, to whom Akbar did the religious conversation. All these people, they got the support during this period. He celebrated festivals like Eid, Shab-e-Barat and Holi. He equally participated all the festivals that were celebrated in India, just to realize all the people that all the people are equal before the law and order. He invited Jesuit mission for religious discussion. For this he called the different missionaries, like Jewish missionaries he called. Similarly, he called the other missionaries. I have told you and described the each and everything that with whom he contact with them and tried to draw the one policy. Now come to the next question, that analyze the importance and limitation of Ain-e-Akbari as a source of Akbar's reason. See that हमें सबसे पहले Ain-e-Akbari, that is written by court poet of Akbar, Abul Fazl. Okay, so उसकी क्या importance है, फिर क्या limitations है. देखिए इस क्वेश्चन के साथ ही हम सेक्शन सी में आ गए और सेक्शन बी अपना जो है कवर हो चुका है. ओके, ये अपना लॉन्ग क्वेश्चन है, इसलिए हमें जो है थोड़ा सा इस पे डेप्थ से बात करनी पड़ेगी. Ain-e-Akbari or Akbarnama, we can see that written by Abul Fazl during the period of Akbar. We can say that this literature is the important source to give the light or throw the light on that period in which the medieval period was passing through. So various different social, religious, economic and cultural aspect we can easily understand from this literature. Now come to the first of all importance. See, I have told you that Ain-e-Akbari, because I have told you क्या अपन जा सकते हैं different political, social, religious, economic and cultural aspects. Like if we say that the political aspects, तो political aspects में how the organization was working, which departments were set up, which officials or officers they were appointed by Akbar. Similarly, like social, how the society was going on, which customs, traditions, the people they were following, what their dressing sense, ornament sense, all these things are coming in this category. Religion, what was the religion of that period? Okay, this is we can see here. And economic, agriculture, which type of agriculture, how that the agriculture was possible, trade and commerce. Cultural aspect, that we can see language, literature, monuments, everything. These aspects are covered by that Abul Fazl in his Ain-e-Akbari. So when we come to the first point, we can see that how the organization of the Mughal was working at that period. We can take the example of this from Ain-e-Akbari. Now erase first of all. Second, it included court, because in political what we discuss, court, administration, army, their source of revenue, how the these officers they would work, because if the salary was given to them, then they need some economic source. And the physical layout of the provinces of Akbar empire, how many provinces were, what was the income of each and every provinces. So this is the description that we can see in Ain-e-Akbari. It included the literary, cultural and religious tradition of the people. I have told you, अगर मैंने यहाँ पे political, social और economic लिखे हैं तो आप ध्यान में रखिएगा कौन कौन से वो पैरामीटर्स हैं जो रिलीजन में आते हैं. Means that the deities who were worshipped, mode of worship, how or that the kind of worship. Okay, in this way we can see literary, what the literature was going on. See that the Persian was the royal language at that time. So Ain-e-Akbari, it was also written in Persian language. With the help of it we can know it. And cultural mein which type of that the other educational institutions they were working there. It mentioned description of provinces, सूबास, क्योंकि provinces को क्या कहा जा रहा है, सूबास. एवरी सूबा का वहाँ पे हमें डिस्क्रिप्शन आइन-ए-अकबरी में दिखाई देता है विथ देयर रेवेन्यू, सोर्स ऑफ रेवेन्यू को, कि उन जो है क्या था और उसको कैसे लिया जाता था ऑफिसर्स के द्वारा. Ain-e-Akbari also gives the intricate quantitative information of Mughal provinces, because everything is coming about the provinces. Description of diverse customs and practice prevailing across extensive territories we can see here. जैसे अकबर जो था वैसे अकबरी टोपी पहनता था, कोर्ट में जब आता था तो वो एक जो है अपने कोर्ट में आता था. सो दिस इज द डिफरेंट पैटर्न. वाइल द इंडिजिनियस पीपल व्हाट दे वर that the wearing, we can see that the peasant farmers they were generally wearing the dhotis. So this description is found also in Ain-e-Akbari. The Ain is therefore a mine of information about Akbar's reign. ये तो सारी इंफॉर्मेशन है जो इम्पोर्टेंट है, ये इम्पोर्टेंट फीचर्स है. नाउ लिमिटेशंस. देखिए अगर हमें लिमिटेशंस नहीं पता तो सबसे पहला हमें यहाँ पर सोचना पड़ेगा. अबुल फजल राइटर है, अकबर रूलर है, तो अबुल फजल ने जो भी लिखा होगा वो अकबर की केवल अच्छाइयों को देख के लिखा होगा. व्हाट वाज द डीमेरिट इन हिम, इन हिज एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, इन हिज पॉलिसी मेकिंग व्यू, दिस इज नॉट डिस्क्राइब्ड बाय Ain-e-Akbari और अबुल फजल इन हिज Ain-e-Akbari. सो लिमिटेशन क्यों? क्योंकि आप देखिए ही वॉज द कोर्ट पोइट ऑफ अकबर, तो वो वही लिखेगा जो सब कुछ अच्छा चल रहा होगा. सबसे बड़ा जो पर्सनल जो ड्रॉबैक वो खुद अबुल फजल का है, दैट ही रिमेन बायस. whatever he tried to write down, it was only written on the basis of what was happening, good happening there. What was the worst condition, it was not described by अबुल फजल। हालांकि जब हम अदर कंटेम्प्रेरी सोर्सेज से देखते हैं तो हमें उस समय की जो है अदर कंडीशंस के बारे में भी पता चलता है। न्यूमरस एरर्स इन टोटलिंग हैव बीन detected, like we can see here that which type of totaling here, whenever we see that the some date is given here, that is not presented, incident is not presented with the particular date, so हम एक तरीके से जान ही नहीं पाते कि इंसिडेंट कब हुआ था। सेकेंड, आईने अकबरी is the somewhat skewed nature of the quantitative data, खूब सारे उसमें जो है क्या कर दिए गए हैं, डेटास को डाल दिया गया। सो इट इज नॉट अंडरस्टूड बाय द कॉमन मैन, इसको तो वही समझ सकता है जिस व्यक्ति ने लिखा है और जिस पीरियड के अकॉर्डिंग लिखा है। While the fiscal data from the Suba is remarkable for its richness, some equally vital parameters such as prices and wages from these same areas are not as well documented. हालांकि एक सूबा कितना रिच है ये तो लिखा है, लेकिन उस सूबा से कितना रेवेन्यू किस कॉस्ट पे लिया जा रहा है इसका डिस्क्रिप्शन जो है आईने अकबरी में नहीं मिलता है। The detailed list of prices and wages is mainly derived from data pertaining to areas and in or around the imperial capital of Agra. इसके लिए हमें क्या करना पड़ता है, बाहर के सोर्स पर डिपेंड होना पड़ता है, जबकि इसको आईने अकबरी लैक करता है। ठीक है, आईने अकबरी फ्रॉम विद द हेल्प ऑफ आईने अकबरी वी कैन सो द and can know the revenue, but how the revenue was generating by the imperial officer, it is not mentioned, and what was the parameter, exact parameter, this is not there. लिस्ट ऑफ द प्राइजेस को भी जो है मेंशन नहीं किया गया है। जैसे अलाउद्दीन खिलजी की जब हम मार्केट रेवेन्यू पॉलिसी की बात करते थे तो वहां पर हमने क्या देखा था, एवरीथिंग की प्राइस को दिया गया था, लेकिन ऐसी एक प्राइस की लिस्ट हमें आईने अकबरी में नहीं मिलती है। आईने इज देयरफॉर ऑफ लिमिटेड रिलेवेंस, इसलिए उसका जो रिलेवेंस है वो बहुत ही लिमिट हो जाता है। नाउ कम टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, एक्सप्लेन द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ नॉन कॉपरेशन मूवमेंट। क्विट इंडिया मूवमेंट को हमने जो है बी सेक्शन में जो है देखा था। यहाँ पे गांधी का एक और मूवमेंट आ रहा है, दैट इज द नॉन कॉपरेशन मूवमेंट 1920। ओके, दिस वाज द फर्स्ट मूवमेंट, नेशनल मूवमेंट वी कैन सी हियर, एंड दिस मूवमेंट इज आल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज इट इज रिलेटेड विद द जलियांवाला बाग ट्रेजेडी। आप जानते होंगे कि नॉन कॉपरेशन मूवमेंट के पहले जस्ट पहले जो है जलियांवाला बाग ट्रेजेडी आ रही है, और एक और मूवमेंट आ रहा है दैट इज द खिलाफत मूवमेंट। खिलाफत मूवमेंट और नॉन कॉपरेशन मूवमेंट ये पैरेलल चलते हुए एक में मर्ज हो जाते हैं। खिलाफत मूवमेंट की जब हम बात करते हैं तो ये जो मूवमेंट था, दिस मूवमेंट वाज अगेंस्ट द ब्रिटिश। Why? Because Turkey, Ottoman Empire, it participated during the First World War, and due to the participation in the First World War, one treaty was imposed on Turkey, and the people, they were thinking that the Khalifa who was the higher officer, higher religious officer of Turkey, that would be debarred from his religious rights. So people of Turkey wanted to save his religious rights. So here we can see that the Khilafat movement whenever was going on, and among this period or mid this period, Gandhiji launched his non-cooperation movement. So now what we have to do, importance of non-cooperation movement बताना है। हमें सारी बातें नहीं लिखनी है, यहाँ पे हमें causes नहीं लिखनी है, but we have to keep all the causes in our mind and write down on the basis of these causes. See that Gandhiji coupled non-cooperation with Khilafat and adjoined Hindus and Muslims to end colonial rule. क्योंकि खिलाफत मूवमेंट को मैंने अभी आपसे डिस्कस किया, सो गांधीजी वांटेड टू एंड दिस ब्रिटिश रूल, सो he led the non-cooperation movement of 1920. These movements unleashed a surge of popular action that was altogether unprecedented in colonial India. देखिए दोनों, हालांकि देखिए खिलाफत मूवमेंट दैट वाज द अगेंस्ट द ब्रिटिश टू guide the people, to guide the Muslim people, and non-cooperation movement not to cooperate with the British. So क्या किया गया इस मूवमेंट के अंतर्गत, जो इंडियंस थे दे लेफ्ट देयर गवर्नमेंट जॉब्स, क्योंकि उनको सहयोग नहीं करना था, कॉपरेट नहीं करना था ब्रिटिश से. सो इंडियंस दे रिजाइन फ्रॉम देयर जॉब्स, they left their jobs. In this way we can see that the people, those who were induced in the government job, they started to separate from these government jobs and they worked as the private institutions. These movements we can see, in this movement the people they came together, okay, and Indians did not cooperate with government at any level. क्योंकि मैंने अभी आपसे बात की, they boycotted British courts, they boycotted British education system, they boycotted Western goods, they boycotted and picketing that the liquor. So all these things we can see in non-cooperation movement. Boycott of schools, colleges and law courts, मैंने अभी आपको बता ही दिया. National schools, colleges were opened. Non-payment of taxes, because Gandhiji decided not to pay the heavy revenue by the peasants to the zamindars. Renunciation of the title and voluntary association with the government we can also see. The prestigious people, they surrendered their awards. One of them we can see that during the non-cooperation movement we can see that Mahatma Gandhi also surrendered his title Kesari Hind. Okay. This movement changed the course of Indian history. Why? Because this was the first movement in which maximum people they participated, and this was also the moment in which Hindu and Muslims they participated. Poor peasants, workers, students, lawyers and enlists, they were the part and parcel of this movement and they also joined this movement. Hindus, Muslims, Parsis, Sikhs, they also united in this movement. Thousands of volunteers, they joined for the cause. Many officials resigned from their post. Meetings were attended by all sessions of the people. Here are so many points you can see, and what you have to do, that you have to describe each and every point here. Women participated in large number. It was training for self-rule, because not to cooperate means self-rule, and the Swadeshi, the use of the indigenous good was also popularized. Gandhiji focused on the use of or the practice of charkha, and this was also the moment we can see where the 1 lakh was collected for Tilak Rajkosh or Tilak treasury funds. So all these are the important features and are associated with the non-cooperation movement. What are the relations between the Bhakti and Sufi tradition? See, that is the next question. Bhakti and Sufi traditions के बारे में जो हमें बात करनी है. Bhakti movement and Sufi movement both are introduced during the medieval period. Bhakti movement in which we can see Kabir, Guru Nanak, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mirabai, Dadu Diyal. Okay, Sufism in which we can see that Khwaja Muinuddin Chishti, Nizamuddin Auliya. Okay, Chishtis, they that sect was founded in India. अब हमें एक बताना है, क्योंकि दोनों पैरेलल आ रहे हैं, तो दोनों के बीच में क्या रिलेशन रहता है. सी दैट रिलेशन ये रहता है कि आप पहले इसको समझिएगा. इन भक्ति मूवमेंट, व्हेन वी से भक्ति मूवमेंट, one God, no idol worship, no superstitions, importance of Guru, equality, देखिए पहले आप इसको समझिएगा। भक्ति मूवमेंट के जो इम्पोर्टेंट फीचर्स रहते, भक्ति मूवमेंट फोकस ऑन वन गॉड। इट सेड God is one, but it appears in many forms. So there is no need to do the idol worship. Idol worship, with the help of true love and devotion, we can get our God, we can achieve our God, we can feel our God. Bhakti movement was totally against the superstitions like performance of the yajnas, okay, and any kind of religious sacraments that were going to be performed during that period. Importance of Guru was also emphasized or insisted by Bhakti movement. With the help of Guru, one disciple can achieve the God. Bhakti movement also against the casteism, emphasized on equality. The same features we can see here with the Sufi traditions. Sufi, they also believed in one God, equality of all the people. With the help of love and music, the people, they could achieve the God. And they also did not believe in the idol worship or any superstitions. These Sufis, they lived in Khanka. Khanka means that not too much luxury life was spent by these Sufis. They lived very simple life, and whatever the people they were offering, they tried to accept it. So just like the Bhakti movement, we can say that the Mira, Dadu Dayal, Guru Nanak, Ramanand, Ramanuj, all these the Bhakti leaders who also led the very peaceful and simplest life. So now if the some features we can see, on the basis of the features we can easily understand the relation. See that the Bhakti traditions here on this, Chola rulers supported Brahmanical and Bhakti traditions. Chola, like we can see that the Rajraj first, okay, Rajadhiraj, okay, these rulers, they were the firm supporter of the Bhakti traditions and Brahmanical traditions. They extended royal patronage. These these Bhakti leaders or these saints, they were patronized by these rulers and made lavish grants for building of temple. The rulers, they granted the temples to build the temples. Some of the temples include those of Chidambaram temple, Tanjavur temple, Gangai Konda Cholpuram temple. Okay, so all these some examples that show that these rulers tried to support the Bhakti movement sons. In South India, images of sons were carried during festival. So the people try to understand the teachings of these sons, and they could also live very peacefully and honestly, following the rules of the Brahmacharya. Kings introduced singing of Tamil Shiva hymns in temples, like Vradeshwar temple. We can see here. This is the Shiva temple. These hymns were organized in the text called Tevram. The text is coming Tevram, in which we can see that the hymns, they were consisted of conflicts among Nayanars and other traditions like Jainism and Buddhism for royal patronage. Because of the royal patronage, we can see that they were the not so much conflicts among these religions. Sufi traditions, they visiting the shrines or dargah, okay, rulers wanting their tombs and shrines to the vicinity of Sufi shrine. Take the example of like Iltutmish. Iltutmish, who constructed or we can say who started to construct that Qutub Minar in the memory of Khwaja Bakhtiyaruddin Kaki. But later on Qutub Minar was completed by that Balban. So in this way, Bakhtiyar Kaki was the main Chishti Sant, and in the memory of this Sufi Chishti Sant, we can see that the Qutub Minar was constructed. Like Iltutmish, Balban, many other rulers of Sultanate period or medieval period, they tried to make the Sufi shrines. Shrines means the temples, just as the Chola rulers, they did in their areas. Funding the construction of the tomb of Sheikh Muinuddin by Ghiyasuddin Khalji. Ghiyasuddin Khalji, he also donated some fund for the construction of Sufi son Sheikh Moinuddin. Here one example I have given you, that of Iltutmish and Balban. Sultan set up charitable trust for hospice, made donations. We can see here. Granted tax-free land also was there. Sufis provided legitimation to the power of Sultan. Here we can see that these Sufis, although they patronized, but these Sufis, they never try to misuse their power, and many facilities were also provided by the sultans. Conflicts among Sufis and sultans on rituals like kissing of feet and prostration, adoption, high sounding titles were there, but still we can see that the situation was very cordial. Here are many points, and among these points you can see that 4 or 5 points you can take, and you can describe all these points. Now come to the section D. The section D is very important and very interesting also. Very interesting, why? Because यहाँ पर हमारे पास source होंगे, and source you can see in the form of one paragraph, and you can see that this paragraph is about Sanchi Stupa. Sanchi Stupa, that I previously told you that this Sanchi Stupa was constructed during the Mauryan period but renovated during the Shunga period. But this paragraph is important because this paragraph is going to throw the light that where Sanchi Stupa is situated. We can see that in the state of Bhopal, okay, and similarly you can see that the person who has contributed to throw light on Sanchi Stupa was Alexander Cunningham, okay, and later on what he did, that on the basis of Sanchi Stupa he tried to do some collect the archaeological evidence, and later on that John Marshall, he also contributed. But above all, the source is coming that Nawab of Bhopal, that Shahjahan Begum, okay, and ruling period was 1868 to 1901. What held during this period, that during this period whatever the steps they were adopted for the throwing light on Sanchi Stupa, they were published during this period, and these were the British effort that they tried their best to present Sanchi Stupa before the society. So this paragraph is about this. I told you that this Sanchi Stupa means they were constructed to keep the ashes of Mahatma Buddha, and these paragraph is going to mention the same thing. Now come to that, on the basis of this paragraph you have to describe the answer. Question is before you, that why was Sanchi an interest to Alexander Cunningham? See that first of all, Cunningham was supposed to prepare illustrated reports on the stupa. What was going on? Here you can see that when Alexander Cunningham, he was authorized to throw light on Sanchi Stupa, he wanted to do to prepare the reports on the works that were already done previously, so that the people, the world also can knew about the Sanchi Stupa. Second, that Sanchi draw lies both in it being a center of Buddhist heritage. You know that Sanchi was one of the most important places of Buddhist center or heritage also, and an important part in the history. Of course, Sanchi remained important from the archaeological point of view and that cultural point of view. So Alexander Cunningham wanted to do the same thing. The next thing is coming, how was Sanchi related with the Buddhism? Very good question is here. I told you that stupas, they were constructed to keep the ashes, okay, of related with Buddha. So here you can see that it was one of the oldest Buddhist monuments contain the relics of Buddha, okay, some important things that were kept under the Buddhist stupa we can see here, and the domed shape of the stupa represent Buddha seated in meditation. When we see the Sanchi Stupa, the dome are presented, the dome shape that presented in such a manner that it seems that Mahatma Buddha is seated in the meditation pose. So it means we can see that this is the same meditation pose when Mahatma Buddha, when he did the meditation at Bodh Gaya and got the true knowledge or Sambodhi. So with the help of the archaeological evidence, we can get the facts of history and can prove the historical facts that whatever the particular incident happened in the past. Suppose just when I told you कि महात्मा बुद्धा को संबोधि या ट्रू नॉलेज मिला, तो ये ट्रू नॉलेज मिला इसके लिए जो उन्होंने मेडिटेशन किया, दिस सांची स्तूपा इज वन ऑफ द going to give the proofs of that evidence. The next question is, how did Shahaja Begum conserve Sanchi Stupa? Because I told you Bhopal ruler and that Begum tried to conserve Sanchi Stupa. Okay, the rulers of Bhopal, Shahaja Begum and Sultan Jahan Begum provided money for the preservation of the ancient site, because Sanchi Stupa was important place from the archaeological as well as the historical point of view. So by providing the money, they tried their best to conserve or that the preserve that the monument, this ancient monument. Second thing is coming, John Marshall dedicated his important volumes on Sanchi to Sultan Jahan. John Marshall, who dedicated his work related Sanchi Stupa and dedicated to the period of Sultan Jahan, the whole work going to represent about the archaeological importance and architecture importance of Sanchi Stupa. She refunded the museum that was built there as well as the guest house where John Marshall lived. What did that? Beside giving the fund, we can see that one museum was also built by Shahaja Begum and guest house was also built. That guest house was also used by John Marshall whenever he went there and did his work on Sanchi Stupa. She also funded the publication of the volumes. This you can see that what John Marshall did, he tried to publish the volume, but he needed funds. So this fund was provided by Shahaja Begum. See, again one important question is coming and the source is given. Source is that we have to see in this paragraph, here is the composition attributed to Kabir, okay, and you can see on the basis of this composition we have tried to give the answer. So first of all we take that composition, okay. In this composition, whenever the lines are coming, they are telling about Kabir worship. You know that Kabir, Sant Kabir, one of the prominent sons of Bhakti movement, and he favored Nirguna, attribute-less worship of God. So these lines you can see that God is called by many names like Allah, Ram, Karim, Keshav. Okay, by such type of composition we can discuss this thing that Kabir was emphasizing on this fact that God is one and that God is attributeless or Nirguna God was worshipped by Kabir. So with the help of these lines or this composition, now we are going to discuss some of the important questions. You can see that identify the connotation of Kabir from the following options. That connotation of Kabir means worship of nature was adopted by Kabir, and it appears like he believed in many worship of gods like polytheism, or monotheistic aspect means he believed in one God worship. So I told you whenever I discussed this paragraph that he was the firm believer of one God worship, and one God worship is coming that the monotheistic aspect. Okay, polytheistic means when man believed in many gods, in the worship of many gods. For Kabir, God is one, Ishwar ek hai, God is one, he said this thing. Okay, now come to the next question. Kabir used different names for God or the supreme power. What can one infer from this? I told you that Allah, Ram, Karim, okay, these are the names that were attributed to God. So what can we get the inference from this? That concept of ultimate reality, faith in Saguna Bhakti, rituals a way to gain insight, reality in worshipping idols. See this thing, that you know that Kabir, he was the follower of Nirguna, not Saguna. So this is not the right answer one. Okay. Second, rituals were not adopted by Kabir, or Kabir was totally against any kind of religious rituals or superstitions. So this is not the option one. And reality is in worshipping idols. Idol worship was also criticized by Kabir. So this is also not right option one. So what is the right answer? That the concept of ultimate reality means reality is one, that is God, and we know that reality by different names. Now come to the next question. How has Kabir's composition promote communal harmony at large? See that communal harmony means Kabir took the support of all sections of all communities. Kabir mentioned about one God in all. He questioned religious practice. He was a Hindu by birth. He was a Muslim by birth. See that Kabir mentioned about one God in all. For him, God is one, and it is in the hearts of all human beings. So this is the right answer one. Which of the following is the part of Kabir's philosophy? He gave emphasis on traditions and rituals. No, this is not right one. He used connotations such as sabha or shunya. He gave emphasis on yajnas and sacrifice. He was a fundamentalist in his approach. We can see that he used connotations, okay, and all these three options, they are not related with Kabir's philosophy. I told you that Kabir was totally against the rituals, okay, against the sacrifices, against any type of yajnas, and he was not any type of, we can see that the fundamentalist in his approach. Now come to the next. Kabir's poetry has a literary as well as a philosophical significance. Select the most appropriate option from the following that describes this essence. God is one who just has different names. God is vested in all Saguna forms. God is a philosophy in isolation from rituals. God is based on reincarnation. Reincarnation means that whenever man suffers from suffering, God has to come in human life. God has to take the form of human life, and we can see that like Rama, Krishna, they are in human beings and they serve the whole society of their period. So we can see that the option one is right, that God is one who just has different names. God is one, but he is known by different names, I told you before. Now read the following statements regarding Kabir and select the appropriate option. Kabir was a Nirgun son. He believed in formless supreme God. He wanted to remove the differences based on caste and religion. He condemned the superstition, cults, the rituals, the ritualism, the doctrines of both Hinduism and Islam's options. See that 1, 2, 3 and 4, we have to select these options, and C is true because we can see he was a Nirgun son. He believed in formless supreme God, okay. He wanted to remove the difference based on caste and religion. He condemned the superstition, cults, the ritualism and doctrines of both Hinduism and Islam. Okay. See that here Nirgun means, I told you that Nir means nahi hona, not to be. Guna means to be, to the attributes. So when we not worship God with the attributes, this form is known as the Nirguna. And when we worship God with imposing the attributes, it is known as the Saguna. Come to the next question. Again the source is given, and with the help of this source we have to try out to find out the answers. See, this paragraph is based on the Draupadi's that one of the important figures or the personalities during Mahabharata period, okay. So with the help of this passage, some question is coming. First of all, we try to take this paragraph. Draupadi is supposed to have asked Yudhishthira whether he had lost himself before staking here. two contrary opinions were expressed in response to this question. One, that even if Yudhishthira had lost himself earlier, his wife remained under his control, so he could stake her. Two, that Two, that an unfree man as Yudhishthira was when he had lost himself could not stake another person. The matter remained unresolved. Ultimately, Dhritarashtra restored to the Pandavas and Draupadi their personal freedom. Now come to the question. To whom did Draupadi ask these questions after losing in the dice game? See that this question, one person name was there, that Yudhishthira. अभी जो अपन ने पैसेज को पढ़ा तो जो जिस पांडव का नेम आ रहा था वो था युधिष्ठिर. ओके, now the second question is, why is Draupadi raising these questions? She wanted to know her position as a wife. She wanted to challenge the Kauravas. She wanted to instigate the Pandavas for the war. She wanted to humiliate the Pandavas. See that she wanted to know her position as a wife, because you know कि when the chess game was organized by Kauravas, what Yudhishthira did, he was just losing the game, and at that time उन्होंने शकुनी के कहने पर जो है द्रौपदी को भी जो है जो उस चौसर के गेम में जो है दांव पर लगा दिया था. सो व्हेन पांडवास दे वर डिफीटेड बाय कौरवास, सो एक क्वेश्चन था कि व्हाट इज द पोजीशन ऑफ द्रौपदी एज ए वाइफ, बिकॉज अगर एज ए वाइफ उनकी पोजीशन है, देन हु वाज युधिष्ठिर टू प्ले विद द्रौपदी इन द चौसर एंड टू पुट द दाव इन चौसर. तो यहाँ पर जो है कुछ क्वेश्चन हम देख पा रहे हैं. हाउ डिड द्रौपदी रिएक्ट टू हर ह्यूमिलेटिंग ट्रीटमेंट? She raised the legal issues of property and ownership. She challenged context of patriarchal marriage. She symbolized the figure of the ultimate lord, master and owner. She cried in shock and dismay at the treatment that she faced as a wife. बिल्कुल ये सही बात है, बिकॉज जब उनको जब दांव पे लगा दिया जाता है युधिष्ठिर के द्वारा, तो एक ही क्वेश्चन होता है कि शी वॉज अल्टीमेटली इन द शॉक कि व्हाट हैपेंड ड्यूरिंग दैट टाइम, बिकॉज she was the wife of Yudhishthira, and once Yudhishthira did not ask and put a question before her that he was going to play Chaucer beyond the wishes of Draupadi. Next is, how did Dhritarashtra react at the end? He restored personal freedom to the Pandavas and Draupadi. He compelled the Pandavas to stay with Kauravas. He ordered Duryodhana to apologize, or he called Yudhishthira to restore their power. What he did, he restored personal freedom to the Pandavas and Draupadi. Now, last question is about map, that Amravati Stupa, Rakhi Gadi, Agra और विजयनगर. ओके, एंड सेकंड मैप जो है झांसी एंड कैलकाटा. सी 5 मार्क्स क्वेश्चन जो है वो मैप बेस्ड रहेगा. यहाँ पे कुछ जो है हमारे पास इंपॉर्टेंट आर्कियोलॉजिकल हिस्टोरिकल प्लेसेस पूछे गए हैं, एंड वी हैव टू शो ऑल दीज प्लेसेस इन द मैप. अमरावती स्तूपा, राखी गढ़ी. ओके, नाउ कम टू दैट here. First of all, Rakhi Gadi. Here you can see that Rakhi Gadi is situated in Haryana. It is one of the important sites of Indus Valley civilization, Rakhi Gadi. Second one is coming that the Agra. Okay, Agra was founded by Sikandar Lodi in 1504. Jhansi. Jhansi was the one of the most important centers of 1857 revolt. Calcutta, it was also very famous during the modern period from the trading point of view. Okay, nowadays it is known as the metropolitan cities. Later on that the Vijayanagar Empire, from where the Krishnadev Rai ruled, and he wrote Amuktamaliyat. Amravati style of sculpture or art was very famous during the ancient period. So all these are the historical places and they are very important. So in this way you can see that this is the map. This was the first model paper. To bring the second model paper I will soon come. तब तक के लिए धन्यवाद, नमस्कार.